Kevin was a 16-year-old boy I met while he was fighting his brother. They were fighting about their dads. Kevin told me how excited it was for him to spend time with his dad over the weekend. I dropped Kevin off on a Friday, and he waited and waited. Saturday came, Kevin was still waiting. Sunday came, Kevin was still waiting for the dad that never showed up. We don't eat till the father comes to the table. We don't eat until the father comes to the table. We don't eat till the father comes to the table. In 1995, as a visiting artist in the Shortstop Youth Center, I encountered two teens that demonstrate or summed up the need for a father to come to the table. This was over a 2-year period where trust came to a deeper level. Dre said, "Duarte, I thought you was a child molester or a rapist because no adult male really cares for teens." Johnny thought he was taking advantage of me when I would give him a ride home from the teen center. He'd say, "Yeah, Duarte, all we got to do is say we hungry. We can get you to buy us a hamburger." I kind of chuckled inside and said, "Johnny, before you even got in the car, I asked God to prepare your heart to receive the burger. So really, it's been my honor before he even asked, his needs were being met." About me. I connected to making art at age 6. When I made art and when I make art, I feel alive. Between making art, I looked out for 4 younger brothers and sisters. I'm not crying, Taisha. I also had 5 older brothers and sisters that were in foster care and living on their own. Our fathers never came to the table. They never came to anything in our lives or any event in our lives. And my mother's thoughts or her words were, "You GD kids ruined my life." But it was clear that our mom loved us in her own way. So my goal was to get rich as an artist, to buy happiness, and find my mama husband. That's how I got to Ohio at the age 13. My brother Darnell was at the Columbus College of Art and Design. I had big dreams of coming there and getting rich. I knew how to trace then. So I came here at 13. I lived with Darnell, blah, blah, blah. And I wound up joining the art league. I dropped out of school because they really didn't care about art, and they teased the teacher, to be honest. I did my very first art show, and it was a dedication to Mr. Steele. Mr. Steele was a tall, calm black man. When he walked into the room, I felt like my father had literally came to the table. He made schoolroom even comfortable. And they tell me now, as I went to college in my 50s, that I wasn't diagnosed, but they said, "You just have dyslexia, get over it." And so I had learned how to learn and didn't know I had a problem with learning. So as I'm saying, Mr. Steele, his 1 year of teaching caused me to understand so much. I never really told him, and that's why I wrote the book called The Steele Influence in my 50s. While we were preparing the talk, Mr. Ty and his wife asked me, did I tell Mr. Steele about this? So it bugged me. I hadn't contacted him since I wrote the book for him. And so I was in my mind thinking, I don't even know if he's still alive. So I dug through my emails Saturday and wrote him a message. And in the message I wrote, "It's Ricky from your 5th grade class. So around 10 o'clock at night, since I'm 60, he has to be at least 70, or he couldn't have been 20 in school teaching as a teacher, but he writes me back and tells me he's glad to hear from me. He just happened to be looking over notes that his son gave him and looking at the pictures that I sent him, which lets me know as he ages, his love for me is even greater. And he says, you wrote Ricky in the byline, your student from the 5th grade. He said, best believe we never forget students like you, which let me know he loved me like a son. And I promised myself not to shed one tear, but it's hard not to. I mean, it's not tears of sadness. To be loved gives you a joy, a tear that is beyond laughter. One of the fellas felt he wanted people to laugh more, but his mantle isn't about laughter. Some of these young people are showing the way. I remember the day Dr. King was shot. It was announced over the school's PA. Excuse me, class, sorry for the interruption, but Dr. King was shot and killed. This tall black hero man slumped down in his chair and cried in front of me and the rest of the classmates. I knew he wasn't crying the tears of a sissy because we were told real men don't cry. I learned from Dr. Steele. I understood that Dr. King must have been a good man and that there are some causes worth crying for. While teaching at the ACPA Arts and College Preparatory Academy, where gay, transgender, Gothic students were learning in a safe environment in a high school together, we were making sympathy cards for victims and families affected by Virginia Tech shootings in 2007. And the reason why that's important, as a young man, when I was in the 9th grade, I skipped school because, like I said, I quit high school and went to CCAD and took art classes at night, lied about my age, but I hung in a library, and they used to have albums, and I played Nikki Giovanni's albums and Nina Simone, and she talked about truth being on its way. And there's part of my learning that came from that library, that public institution. And so I got to meet Nikki Giovanni, and she read one of my poems about a tin can. And I got this letter after I traded my book and took a picture with her like we do. We didn't really have Facebook. And so I get this little letter. It was Nikki writing me a note and saying, tin can was my favorite. And so I took the picture and cherished that. And so when the shootings happened, Nikki Giovanni was trying to alert the people aforetime over this guy's personality. Because I want to tell you something. Artists and poets are not just artists and poets because they're artists and poets. They're artists and poets because they're sensitive. They feel the pulse and the heartbeat of people and our family. And see, being born without a dad that gave me time gave me permission to allow other people to give me time. So my family has become so extended that I'm more than a conqueror in this stuff. So Big Mike, one of the kids in the classroom was making cards back to Virginia Tech, asked me, Mr. Brown, do you think they even going to read these cards, being they're famous and all? The class stopped and listened as I read the sincerity in Big Mike's face and recognized the tenderness in the hearts of the students. I asked him, Big Mike, if your family member was shot, would you feel hurt? He shook his head and said yes. I began to explain to him by saying, Mike, we are global neighbors. When our neighbors are hurt, we hurt. They are families that just lost a family member. If this happened to you, how would your mom feel? These cards simply say, to those who are hurting, we feel your pain and want to say we care. Mike looked back at me and said, Mr. Brown, this ain't no gay stuff, but I love you, man. Does that say something about our society? That if a man says I love you, he's gay, or it's wrong? We're twisted up in that. Sorry. I'm not sorry. So I made an excuse to go to the supply room because I began to cry and realized I was Mr. King in Mike's life. I understood I had come full circle. What a father does is set you at the table. He talks about life and he transfers culture. You begin to know what you are. You know your identity. You know what you're born to do. And I got to see Mr. Steele give that to me, and then it was given back out. And without a degree, I was teaching because they said you could never be a teacher. Why be a teacher? You won't make money. So I did everything they said I couldn't do without a degree. And then I went and got a degree later because it was a thing to do. Do something for yourself. I owe money, but I'm still going to get that money coming in to pay those debts off all the way, because there comes a time when you realize you weren't born to be poverty-stricken. In 2016, I want to say these right, and it's written down because it's important. I was granted a year-long artist residency at the Whitehall Yearling High School and Rosemore Middle School with a grant from the Ohio Arts Council's Teach Art Ohio. Working 3 days a week with 3 different teachers as a participating artist, we came up with products were student and teacher driven. This was important to me because all of my residencies were outside of Whitehall. My kids went to school here and ACPA. My sons moved to Seattle, and they think that Whitehall is a declining area. Now, that's something you don't want to hear, but life's tough. We don't want to hear about black lives, but we hear about it not mattering or however it goes. When I bring a studio setting into the classroom and demonstrate my art-making process, this allows liberty for some students to articulate their fears and struggles in a non-judgmental way. While we're making art, we begin to talk and bond. The brain begins to create and flow, and it's safe to take risks as natural giftings eagerly unfold. I'm bringing it home. Students are looking for opportunities to be led out and excused from violence. Recently, a young man, I won't say his name. Actually, that's the man that wants to do what he says here. He shared about his frustration with a longtime friend. He has a very intimidating demeanor and expressed his need to F his friend up. All I could do was sit and listen to him. Well, I asked, after you beat him up, then what? I told him that real men choose to lose to win. You know, I was making art the whole time, and he was watching me. He just wanted to be around me. Because all kids need a father. All kids need Mr. Steele to come in their life. And we have the opportunity, and they need the mothers too, but I'm focused on this topic. You know how your brain always wants to answer everybody's questions, and you're not even supposed to do that. And truthfully, I can tell he was looking for a way out so he wouldn't look weak in front of his peers. I come to Whitehall as a grandfather who cares for Whitehall. This is my city. This is my home. I dream for my city. I fight for my city by using art as a medium to enhance relationships. The students of Whitehall have captured my heart.